All right, so I played the La Quimera demo or closed beta, and I have thoughts. Let me just get the positive shit out the way. The game is fun. It really reminds me of old Killzone, more of like Killzone Shadowfall than Killzone 2 and 3. Killzone 2 and 3 is kind of slow, but Shadowfall is a little bit faster. This game is a much more like that. So if you liked Killzone Shadowfall, you're gonna love this. The world is pretty lush, the graphics are good, it ran fine, I didn't have too many issues. There is a couple spots where like in the very first part, when you're kind of going in between the sections of the base, where all of a sudden the frame rate drops really bad. And I think that's because you're in more of an open part of the jungle. Like as you go from the hut to a bridge to back to a hut, it like, you can see it drop. Enemy design is your generic, you know, not really cyberpunk, but you know, higher tech military. Now, where I feel the enemy design was most interesting was one specific enemy. I like to call it the Robo Tiger. It's a quadruped robot that goes invisible and will just jump out and start shooting and jumping around. And you have to take it out with your electromagnetic weapons. And once you do, then it starts to heal while it's like damaged, and if you don't go and finish it off, it'll get back up and start attacking you again. Now, another thing I do like about the game is the fact that there are two ammo types, the electromagnetic rounds and your regular ballistic rounds. I forgot what they're called in the game. Regular ballistic rounds you use on regular enemies like always, but your electromagnetic ones you want to use on robots and enemies that use robotic attachments. You know, I do like the fact that you kind of have to think tactically, like, okay, I got to take this guy out with the ballistics, switch over, get the electromagnetic ones. It's all pretty good. So world design's good. Enemy design is all right. It's not bad. It's not fantastic. It's just serviceable. The feel of the gunplay is very, very good. It doesn't feel clunky. It doesn't feel floaty. It feels very precise for the most part. As far as precision goes, the aiming, I think it might be just a glitch, but when I would aim my like sidearm, sometimes it wouldn't go up, or it would be in like the sideways aiming style or whatever. It was like weird. It wouldn't happen all the time. I would like, if it did that, I would go off and then aim again and then it would be right. So I think it just might be a little bit of a glitch. Now with the submachine gun, now it is a submachine gun, so the bullets are gonna kind of go everywhere, but even so, it felt like sometimes the bullets would kind of go off from where they should be. Not saying they need to be laser focused, but it wasn't like the normal submachine gun spread. It kind of sometimes felt like it was going off. So it might be something wrong with like, I don't know what you would call that, bullet tracking, something like that. Specifically with that gun, I hadn't tried out any of the others. But that's all the positive stuff out the way. Now let's get into the things I did not like about the game. And I had to write down my notes for this. We'll start at the top and then gradually go down to the worst. Now, the first thing is not like a really bad thing as far as gunplay. The reload is way too slow for me. Now, I haven't played an FPS in a while, like an actual like one kind of like this, like either Call of Duty, Killzone, all of them. I don't know, so I might be completely off on this. Other people may feel differently, but I feel like the reload is way too slow. I counted it out and it was like reloading the submachine gun, which you would think a submachine gun would reload quickly. Maybe I'm, you know, remembering too much of what Destiny was like, and you know, if you get your perks right, you can get a fast reload, but it felt too slow for me. Now, for another negative would be the voice acting and the sound design. I'll start with the voice acting. Voice acting is not terrible. It's not as bad as like Now Way in Assassin's Creed Shadows.
What is Chichue hiding, Kitty? What's in the box? If Chichue is willing to risk his life, I can do no less.
Them scavengers think they can touch us with their damn muskets.
Manny, that's an EMP mortar.
Fucking die, hijo de puta mariposa!
But it isn't necessarily the best either. Kind of like a step up from Now Way, if you will. Now, sound design is good for the most part. The issue I had with it is it almost felt like, and if you've edited videos, you know, like the different tracks on your audio, it almost felt like a couple tracks, it almost felt like a couple of the tracks that they had were muted. Sounds like they're shooting off pop rocks.
They're pinned down. Get us close. Manny, that's an EMP mortar. Manny!
So it'd be like one single gunfire track in like a cutscene, and then just the ambient audio, and then that was it. It almost felt like there were a couple times where it felt like there should be more gunfire and explosions in a cutscene. And it only happened like with 2 of them, I want to say. 2 of like the 4 or 5 cutscenes. So it didn't happen too often, but when it does happen, you can tell. Last kind of negative would be the facial animations. Facial animations aren't the best. They're very early 2010 to late 2000s kind of face animations. Really remind you of old style FPS story games like Killzone. You'll feel right at home if you grew up in that time. I only had one facial glitch where I guess like the boss guy, he's like talking to the chick, and all of a sudden his eyes like almost looked like he had a Tensegon or something. And I think he's supposed to have these like LED contact things. Whenever they show the close-ups, you can see the ring. But then like there was a couple times where he was further away and his eyes were like glowing blue, like he had a Tensegon. It was really cool to see. But I'm pretty sure that was a weird facial glitch. But other than that, nothing too crazy. Now we get to the egregious issues I had, and it's only 2 to 3. I guess if one of them you can merge together, and it all really reared its ugly head in the last part of the boss fight at the last part of the demo. So in the last part of the demo, you have to fight this airship robot thing, and you have to take out the engines on it with your electromagnetic rounds, right? And the issue is, and it has to do with the ammo economy of the game, there are no ammo crates for you to just go and reload all your med kits and your ammo. The only way to reload your med kits and ammo is through pickups throughout the sections. And the problem with that, for one, is that if you can end up going into a section way underprepared. Now, granted, that's something that you kind of have to deal with, and then you just kind of learn from your mistake. But because of the way that they handle ammo economy and pickups, which they randomize them, you can't really plan ahead. Now, what do I mean by this? So let's say you're going into a section, and there's maybe a Gaylord or a Big Ben or something, and there's a med kit sitting up on top of it. And then there is maybe a broken down car, and there's some ammo sitting on there. You go into the area, you pick up both, you take care of business, and then you move on, right? Well, let's say at the very end of that, you die, right? Well, you start back at the checkpoint of that area. Well, okay, let me go pick those 2 things up again. Well, they're gone now because they randomized the pickups. So now instead of those 2 things being in those 2 spots, now maybe they're down there, maybe they're over here, or maybe they're not even in the area at all. Maybe they just completely leave the area, and now you don't have anything you can pick up that you're gonna need. That's something that the devs for this game have to fix. Either they're gonna put weapon crates in the sections for you to reload everything, or they have to make the pickups persistent and the same every single time. They can't randomize them every time. Otherwise, there's no way for the player to be able to plan ahead for how they're going to tackle a situation if it's something that's a little bit more difficult. You can't go in there and be like, okay, I know where the stuff is. I know how to engage the enemy. Let me hit these guys. Let me go over here, pick this thing up. No, you can't plan for anything. So you're just fucked if you end up using everything you've got on one particular enemy that might take you by surprise. And the last big thing has to do with that boss I was talking about earlier. Another thing that you really feel like you need when you fight that boss is there needs to be a prone in the game. Because you can crouch, but it feels like you can't crouch down far enough to where you're not getting hit. So you'll run up to a broken down car or something, and it's shooting at you. You crouch down, but it's like your head is still high enough to where you're still getting shot. You're just not getting shot as much. So what you really need is a prone so you can get all the way on the ground and not get killed. because that was happening to me constantly, where I would get behind something and I was still getting shot by everybody and the thing. And then let's say if I run over to the other side and get behind something taller, well, now in that pathway, then I'm getting shot and I get killed. Another thing with that robot boss is the rockets that it uses. Because you can't get prone, you end up, the rockets are like a cluster rocket. It's like a bunch of small rockets that kind of hit a couple different places all around where you are. So if you just crouch behind something, you're still gonna get blown up here, and up top here. But it'd be like if you could crouch down all the way, then you wouldn't get hit. And I feel like they need to tone down how many rockets it shoots, not the number per se, but the frequency of it, because it's like it'll do it and then 4 seconds later it's shooting them again. So you're like constantly pinging around the area, and it's a small little congested little area with a bunch of things to crouch behind, but they're all in the way from you being able to maneuver. So you're constantly having to run around stuff, you're bumping into things, trying to get away, and the rockets are just hitting everywhere. And the splash damage for the rockets is pretty wide, so you could still get fucked up. And while you're dealing with that, you're also dealing with the enemies on the other side of the little ravine are shooting you, along with a drone that the thing popped out that's also shooting you. So you're just fucked all over the place. It's really, really bad. Now, I did find the trick with dealing with it. It seemed like the best thing to do was to take the hack ability and just hack the robot, so that way it would start going into like a tailspin and start taking out the engines while it's doing that, and then also at the same time taking the guys out. And then when it would kind of regulate itself, you wait a second and then you could do your hack again, and then it goes into a tailspin. What sucks though, speaking of that, is that your abilities are not on a cooldown. So it's not like you use your ability and then it like slowly goes back up. Like, no, it's like it's got its own little bar, and as you use it, it goes down, and then you have to find a pickup to replenish that bar to use your ability. That's dumb. Abilities should just replenish over time. So that's everything I thought about the La Quimera demo. I like the game. It just needs a decent bit of work with some of the stuff I talked about. If you played the demo, let me know what you think about it. I think that it is going to, when it comes out, when it's fully finished, I think it'll be a very good game. And I think it'll be something that'll scratch that itch for people like me that loved Killzone. It really feels like Killzone Shadowfall. So not necessarily Killzone at home, but somewhere in that middle ground. You know, I did see some people talk about how it's more like Crysis. I personally never played Crysis, so I couldn't say whether it is or not. You'd have to let me know. But all in all, if I were to throw a number on it, I would give this demo more like a 6. I can't in good conscience really, I can't really give it a 7, because I feel like it has just too many issues to give it a decent score. It's all right, but it's more like a 6 to me. But if they fix up a lot of the issues, I think it can easily hit an 8 or a 9. So that's all I got to say about La Quimera. Let me know in the comments what you think about it, if you've played the demo, if you got access to it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Y'all take care.